Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is Cara Oppenheimer. Cara is the co-founder of GoodBuy, the easy button for conscious shopping. GoodBuy is a browser extension that intercepts all of your mega retailer shopping and diverts you to thousands of small businesses that align with your values. Before pursuing life as an entrepreneur, Cara lived the agency life for 17 years as a creative director, managing, building, and directing the vision for creative teams and Fortune 100 brands. Over the years she spent in the agency world, Cara learned a lot about what it meant to be a brand that lived its values, and unfortunately, on occasion, what it meant when a brand did not. So with those incredible learnings in her repertoire and a deep, long-standing desire to build something of her own, Cara started in on her second life, building GoodBuy. Cara is a Canadian born and raised, mom of 2 boys under 4, and a believer in ordering one of everything off the menu. Welcome, Cara. So good to see you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, I'm hitting you with some rapid fire to kick it off.
Okay.
I love your website. I loved preparing for this and spending time on it. And I'm curious, I'm sure you're a consumer like me. Is there a favorite store or department store where you love to shop? I know you're promoting small business, but I'm curious,
this is
like,
a tough one. We're gonna go kind of 2 parts here. So small business wise, I have an obsession with Slow Down Studio.
Okay.
They are like art-centric, unique items for the house, really beautiful, like hand-stitched, blankets and drapery. Anyway, I'm just obsessed with their feed. I'm obsessed with their branding, and I'm constantly buying gifts from there. So from a small business standpoint, Slow Down Studio. And then I have to give a giant pat on the back to like my history as a Canadian. I am like an Aritzia addict, and I'm constantly actually using our tool now on our tool to find alternatives sometimes to Aritzia, because I love their brand and I love that they just know their customer and are constantly serving me, who I'm a
they're puffer. Do you have the puffer? They're like puffer jacket?
Got like a million, honestly. I live in Boise now. I'm Canadian born and raised. And so I've got all sorts of variations on thickness and weight of puffer jackets. So I've got the duvet coat.
Every duvet color, coat. That's awesome.
I'm all of 5'2". So the duvet coat swallows me alive, and from the back, it doesn't look like I'm a person. It's just
you're like walking in a sleeping bag. I love it. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
What's your dessert of choice, or like someone's making you a cake or something for your birthday? What are you going to have?
I'd say key lime pie or any other variation of a pie. I love like acidic things in food.
Oh, yeah. I'm we would be good together, because that would make me not eat dessert. Whenever someone's like, chocolate and peanut butter, I'm like, okay, yum, and key lime pie.
Honestly, I don't discriminate on desserts. I have to say, like, there are like very few desserts I don't eat, and everyone here at the office knows I eat dessert after breakfast and I eat dessert after lunch. It's kind of like I got a sweet tooth.
Lucky you. I wish I could do that. Okay, what's your number 1 bucket list place to ski that you've either been to or want to go to?
Oh, so you knew I was a skier. I would say probably like Swiss Alps. Do something really interesting, go somewhere in Europe. I haven't done the European ski thing, and I would love to do that. But I'm Canadian, so I've done all of this sort of West Coast Canada ski stuff.
Yeah. What are words of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Listen to my gut. I have, I know it's so cliche, and I hate even saying it out loud, but I just feel like my superpower is my own intuition, and my own, like, that little inner voice. And I wish I listened to it sooner, and I wish I listened to it more like steadfast. I wish at every moment that it told me something, that I didn't waver.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
I think everyone at the office could answer this one too. This is like a little heady pet peeve, but seeing people being bullied, or people without like the ability to stand up for themselves. Or the best way I can explain this is I'm the random bystander who, if you filmed me on like what would you do, would jump a counter to help somebody being harassed. I cannot stand it. I'm very vocal in those environments, and a big pet peeve is when people are rude to other people for no reason. I mean, last week I went up to a sales clerk who was being harassed by somebody, and I listened to it happen, and I tried to get him away from her, and walked up to the woman and apologized for his behavior, because I can't stand that stuff. I can't.
You're setting a good example for your kids. That's great. What is the first thing that you like to do when you wake up?
As long as my kid hasn't screamed to wake me up, because that's my life these days. I have an 18-month-old, or now a 19-month-old, and a 4-year-old. So most of the time, that's my least favorite way to wake up, but it's how I wake up is them kind of sounding the alarm. But favorite thing to do when I wake up, I'm a tea drinker. So walk right over to my kettle, turn that on.
I want to be a tea drinker. So who in your life do you most admire?
Oh, I've got a lot. It's a really tough one, but you know what? I just have to, this is going to sound cheesy, but my co-founder, I feel like it's the reason we started a business together. We're very different people, but have found this like kismet relationship together. Vulnerable with each other and constantly learning. And the way she handles her relationships in life is incredible. I have obviously the other answers of, watching my dad be creative and my mom be such like a best friend to me growing up were also wonderful, but relevant to me right now, I think.
I love that. I saw on your website
staple in my life.
I saw like we're in a relationship together, but married to other people. I thought that was adorable. So you talked about Canada a few times. What does it mean to you to be Canadian? Because my friends who are Canadian are very proud. What words, I guess, what anchors you in that culturally?
It's tricky because I have this, I feel when someone says what makes you who you are, it's oftentimes like Canadian and Jewish. Those two kind of come up for me. And it's not about religion and it's not actually about location. It is about how those two things represent the culture inside of me and what's important to me and how I engage with others. And I've learned after almost 20 years in the States to stop saying sorry for everything. And I know it's like a silly thing, but us Canadians, we definitely still do that. And I'm still biting my tongue all the time to stop from apologizing. But I think it's just a focus. I think about Canada having Family Day on the calendar, and knowing that a focus on family is important. They're not a perfect country either, but I felt like I really valued my childhood there. I really valued the emphasis that it placed on people and how we treat each other and community. And that's the same with my Jewish culture, growing up in a Jewish community. So I am from, this is a little bit, I'm going to give you the sidestep routine, but I was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba. It's kind of in the center of Canada. I lived there till I was 8, moved over to Vancouver, made a lot of friends there for a couple of years and lived in Vancouver with my family. And then we kind of set up roots in Calgary, Alberta. Which is kind of just in the Rockies and just over from British Columbia. So I grew up all the way through university in Calgary. So
and I know you,
all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. I know that you got a degree in college. I'm kind of skipping ahead and I want to get back to childhood, but you got a degree in design, visual communication, and advertising, a big whole lot. Were you always at what age did you realize you had kind of a creative eye?
Birth. This has been, it's the most fun thing for me to talk about. Honestly, I just feel like I light up thinking about creativity and using creativity to solve simple problems, complex problems, societal dynamic. That's been the progression of my life, has been, from, I'd say, as soon as I had cognitive ability, my mom kind of tells me stories of how I expressed myself through dance, which was a big, important part of my life. And, in 6th grade, I made a bubble gum machine because why should anybody have bubble gum just out of a bag? I created a little Rube Goldberg machine that I brought to school and was for my friends. In 10th grade, I built a business that I called, it's embarrassing to even say it out loud, but Iced Couture. And I had business cards where I custom built Swarovski earrings for people's grad or prom dresses, as you call it here.
Oh, that's amazing.
I built a sweatsuit, kind of printed sweat brand when I was teaching kind of hip hop dance in Canada. So creativity, expression of creativity my whole life has been central to my being. It's my everyday with my kids. When I write a note for school, it's what lights me up, and it's what lit me up through my whole career is taking a complex problem, or not even a complex problem, just something that needs to be solved and applying a really unique element or creative element to it. I even my bedrooms growing up, I had a Willy Wonka theme room. My dad was oh God, luckily he had a furniture store. So I was able to constantly shift, but I had an African theme room where my mom refused to go in because I had plants everywhere and you could barely walk in the room. So I had that. I had lickable wallpaper because I put those little candy things on my wall.
Into it.
Oh
So
yeah.
being
So
a creative
yeah.
sometimes is almost at odds with being strong as far as your business mind. Is that something you've had to hone, or is that also something that's pretty natural to you? Because it's amazing, like talk about a triple threat when you find somebody who's really strong, both creatively and has an ability to think like a business owner.
I think I feel lucky that I've fine-tuned it over time, but the application of like business use cases to my creativity has, like I mentioned, been inherent. Like if I'm going to build this, what else can I get out of it? And so the answer to your question is pretty simple, that I have felt inside of me both of those things. The execution piece, the execution piece as well as the creativity piece. And when I first started my career, I kind of cold called. I came from Canada and really wanted to live in LA. I was a dancer. I'm like, oh, I'll do music videos and I'll work in advertising. And I got the advertising job pretty quick by kind of going around to a bunch of agencies, but I was hired as a designer, when I first started, but very quickly they realized that I could handle the actual project management side as well. So in my internship, I went from an intern to designer / project manager for an account at the agency I was at. And I was 21 right out of school.
That's amazing. So was it a given that A, you were going to go to college, and B, that you were going to stay in Canada? I don't know anything about Alberta College.
Totally.
How did you go about making that decision?
It's kind of a funny story. So it wasn't a given I was going to go to college. My parents were great about like, you're so creative. We thought I was going to be a professional dancer. I was getting all sorts of accolades for choreography and for things that, was what made me me. Yeah, dance was like the central part of my life. I went down to the US, I'm sharing the story, was dancing at this studio called Edge with my mom. And I was 19, basically just out of high school and just like trying to feel it out. Do I want to go to college? What do I want to do? And I knew I wanted to be in LA, regardless of pre-college, after college. I'd been there so much for dance. I was in a dance class. The teacher came up to me after and said, I want you to audition for a Missy Elliott video after this. That was my dream, literally my dream. I thought I was having like an out-of-body experience. And I came to talk to my mom, and long story short was like, bring your papers. I'm like, what are papers? Meaning papers that you can work in this country. So I couldn't go to the audition without papers. And so it immediately set through for me, what do I need to do that? And immediately I realized it was going to be hard to get papers without an education. And luckily my smart ass mom, classic Jewish Yenta, had already sent in an application for school for me just in case. So I came back.
That's awesome.
I swear to God, I came back, went to the University of Calgary, which is a great program, kind of was dabbling and trying to see what I wanted to do, and then ultimately applied to the degree program, which I went to, which is much more like 40 people in my class. There's a portfolio application process to get in. I was already very into art and drawing, and so decided I wanted to, go into advertising and really kind of hone that skill through those 4 years of school. So the degree I have is in visual communications major with a minor in advertising. And then while I did that, I was successful in it, like got student awards and some publications, and was like, I'm going to go to LA now and become an advertising person, work in agencies. I got the bug. And so, yeah, that's how I got here.
And so what was the interview process like, or the process of kind of, how do you find a job? You went right to LA, got your first job out of college. How did you get the papers? Did they sponsor you? Like, how does that even work?
So yeah, this is funny. I am, if someone used one word to describe me, it'd probably be like tenacious. Like I'm a bulldog when it comes to getting what I want in any scenario, whether that's good or bad for the people around me. But I try and do it with class every time. But this one, I built a list of agencies. I printed out my portfolio, and I flew to LA with my family. And I'm privileged enough that they were able to, pay for that flight and take me down there and rent a car. And we spent a week looking at my list, and they just would drop me off, and I'd go in and drop my portfolio and cold call. And I went to about, I think, 40 something agencies. And I got a call from one of them, which became almost 10 years of my life after that. They wanted me.
That was the Jack Morton.
Exactly. So I worked my way up into being a creative director at Jack Morton, which is a large scale brand experience agency. So they sponsored my sort of temporary visa. I convinced them to do that. I don't know how I did that as an intern, knowing now that I've hired interns and it would be really tough for me to be convinced to do that.
And things have changed. Things have changed for sure.
Things have changed. Yeah. They brought in their legal and, we got things sorted, and I had a series of sponsorships over the last, 17 years. And that was the career I was in until July of this year.
So you worked in creative, Jack Morton, and then XD agency. What is that like for people who don't know? What is a job of a creative director in an ad agency? What does that person do?
So first I'll clarify. So when I got out of school, I graduated with an advertising degree, but I very quickly found a niche in what was I didn't know it yet, but an emerging kind of advertising called brand experience. And so Jack Morton and XDA, which are the agencies that I worked at for 17 years and managed creative teams at, function exactly like a traditional ad agency, but they do, and I worked on non-traditional advertising. So essentially engaging humans in live environments, massive scale, it can be anything from a conference all the way to, digital campaigns, to immersive pop-up experiences, to the tangible brand experiences that make people feel something, that instigate goosebumps. So really connecting with humans in a way that wasn't just a print ad or a voice piece. I had to learn about how to do all these things, how to communicate, in a creative way, but having sort of like one shot to do it, one moment in time, one temporary exhibit. And it's a fascinating career. It's exhausting. It's like the events industry, but for brands.
I was about to say, it sounds like the events industry where there's not just the creative, but then you've got to just hope that all the logistics come in place at the same time.
And of course, it's not just you on your own.
So vulnerable.
Yes. It's so vulnerable. It is, like I said, it was the perfect place for me because I was logistics in my mind meets creativity. And so I
can't even imagine that. I would be too anxious. I love like throwing events and being at events, but if I felt like I could see people's faces and I felt like everything was riding on,
yes.
Are they
Pressure.
getting the goosebumps? Are they feeling what I'm feeling? I remember having this moment of kind of, I love this idea. Does it resonate? Like that would be super stressful.
It's a lot, and you grow a thick skin. And I honestly think people that have this career, the people that are still my cohorts working in those, those companies and other companies that do the same thing, like it is a very, very tough job. And you need to be able to almost like thrive in chaos because no matter what you do, the situations end up chaotic. And there's incredible producers involved and account people managing brands. But I learned so much.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it. And talk about getting you equipped to do what you're doing now with GoodBuy. Was GoodBuy something that you thought of, or did you meet your co-founder and you guys came up with it together? Like, tell me about the origin story.
Okay.
That's my favorite part of this whole podcast. Like the whole reason why I started it. I love these parts.
So you segued perfectly. So fast forward through 17 years of managing creative teams, account teams, I was still working at my job when we came up with GoodBuy. So Carrie and I had our two children together. We both have two children the exact same age, both about, our youngest ones are about 2, oldest one's about 4. And we met when we both moved back to Boise with our husbands and ran into each other at a daycare. There was an extreme lack of diversity at the daycare. I made a comment, her husband made a comment to the people there, and then we bonded over it and decided not to go to the daycare, but to exchange numbers. Long story short, Carrie and I had our first children about 24 hours apart in the hospital, like a literal high five in the hospital as one exited and the other came in. And you can imagine being a mom yourself, what breastfeeding, a child and being on maternity leave together looks like when you're blocks away from each other's homes. So we cried together, we bonded together, we were half naked in a room, breastfeeding our children together. We know what that looks like, as a mom, and just became like fused as humans and just realized the synchronicity we had with our families and how much we loved each other on, the family side, but also on this entrepreneurial side. I was working, managing a creative team at the business I was doing, applying my creativity to brands. She was running her own company around, New Minimalism, it's called. She wrote a book, was really speaking about like consumption and intentional consumption. And all these worlds were just merging, and we kept toying with these ideas together about like, can we do a kids consignment thing? Like, no, and it had to feel right. And we had these ideas that were good, but they weren't quite nailing it. And I was breastfeeding my son. This was in February of 2021. And I woke up at about 4 a.m. as I was breastfeeding him, like all good ideas happen, and was like, holy shit. And I text Carrie while I was holding him and holding my phone. And I said, what if we create a browser extension like Honey that intercepts all of your reflexive online shopping habits? You're on Amazon, you're on Target, you're on anywhere you usually shop, and pops up with the same exact product or similar, maybe even better, from a small business aligned with your values. And that's kind of similar to the brand language we use now. I have the text, we have it in a founder's
See,
post.
I have chills from that.
It.
That gave me chills. That whole sentence, I'm like, I have chills and I want it and I need it immediately.
Good. And that's what happened. And so you felt like Carrie did. So I went to bed and I barely could sleep. I put him back in his crib, went to bed, and I was like, this is it. Like I knew, my whole life I've known that I wanted to do something like this, that took the creativity and merged it with societal dynamic and fixed, challenges that our world has. I felt icky receiving Amazon boxes every day. I'm still shopping Amazon now occasionally because I need it. I've got diapers, but there are times in which we don't have to, but we're being forced to because they're not making it easy for us. And so anyway, derail, but Carrie opens up the text. I think it's 6 a.m. when kids normally wake up. And all it said was, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. I couldn't even, I was scrolling. And she said, this is brilliant. We're building this together. And from that moment, I sent names through. And then we did what we do best. I sent names through, literally in that text. She was like, GoodBuy is brilliant. She checked. It had not been trademarked. And
that's
Carrie
unbelievable.
Carrie does what Carrie does best and started trademarking us, buying domains for us, looking into legal stuff. And then we begun, I'll shorten this timeline, but we got together while our kids were napping because we had other jobs. There was a pandemic going on. There was a lot that we were dealing with, trying not to get our kids sick. And so we were not in offices. Carrie would come over to my garage. When my kid was napping on the weekend, we worked weekends and evenings, and our husbands would hang out in the other house, and we would write our investor deck. And we're like, we don't even know what we're solving yet or how this works. And very quickly engage with our own networks and communities. I have a really good friend who is now our functioning CTO with Purpose Lab. They're an incredible company. His name's Andrew Skinner. I reached out to him, and from our garage, Carrie and I pitched him the idea. And I said, is this possible? We're not technical co-founders, but I feel like it's possible. But I've never seen anyone build a browser extension that does this, that pops up with products in the moment you're on big box. Like, how can we make it easy for people, to find the exact product they need the moment they need it in a more conscious way and in a way that introduces them to better brands? And he just, in his deadpan way, sort of looked at us. He's got this sarcastic sense of humor and was like, we can do this, definitely. This is buildable and it's brilliant. And I want to hang up the phone so I can talk to my partner. And I think we want in. And it was just like, from then on, like, holy crap, he wants in. We haven't even received investor funds. We haven't even thought about an investor plan, about reaching out to investors. And this is where our story of speed comes in. So we started basically, we had finished our investor deck in the first week of June. Finish. And if you look at it now, it's an embarrassment. I can't even peek at it. I'm sure most people feel that way, but we finished our investor deck in June and began pitching, I think, June 8th, and had fully committed our seed round within 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. And what was it about? Well, first of all, incredibly inspiring. I love the passion. I love the whole story so far, but most of the female founders that I speak to who have received funding have had a harder time being women. And sometimes when you're pitching a group of, like, this is so cliche to say, but it's true, like a group of like white middle-aged men, which is typically like the VC community.
It's the truth.
They oftentimes don't understand the problem that you're trying to solve because they're not the ones that you're targeting. Like, women do most of the purchasing, and women are the ones who are caring a little bit about the problem that you're solving, probably more. It's a little bit of an assumption to say these things, but this is just like broadly.
Well,
and so how did you overcome that and raise so quickly? What was the special sauce?
I think it's all just guessing to tell you what that special sauce is. I think timing is one of them. The problem that we're solving, the product market fit, as we call it, product zeitgeist fit, is really real. During a pandemic, when people felt like supporting, a small local restaurant was heroic, we met that moment and that movement really quickly. And so I think the feeling that we all had about how to support conscious shopping, doing it in an easier way, was in the ether beyond just women. So I think the timing was a huge thing. The other piece is what we've just talked about. I spent my entire life honing my pitch. My career has been built on like catering a message to a group of white men, to be honest. A lot of working in marketing is ending up in a room with a CMO who is a white dude, and oftentimes very smart white dudes. And sometimes you get the bonus of a woman in the room, but trying to own a room, as an agency who doesn't know as much about a brand as the brand themselves, and own that room and sell them on the idea you're delivering. And so I felt like in the moment that we delivered this pitch to our institutional seed investors, that I was like beyond ready. I don't get nervous about that stuff because that's what I've been built to do. It's what I've been like honing my career to do. So I'm not, saying we're the reason it happened, but I think timing mixed with like pitching not always being something that a founder's used to doing. I think it can be a nerve-wracking thing to do that. And so storytelling and pitching became at the center. And then I will say in that meeting, I called out our seed investors and said, listen, I'm sitting here in front of you as a woman where no women are invested in right now. I can tell the stats to you. You're two white men, as far as I can see. What do you have to offer us? Do you have people in your community?
Good
and I literally
for you.
said that.
I love you.
And Mike, who you've met before and is one of our investors, was like laughing and smiling at me as I was saying it, which is basically like, I'm going to call you out in this room.
When you see even just like on like Shark Tank or something, and it's oftentimes they're like, well, okay, this is awesome. This is a great idea. We don't know if it can be like proof of concept. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but look at the kind of kahunas and look at this like little ball buster. Like, look at this firecracker. I know that this person's going to go out there, and the two of you sound like such a powerful force that even if you weren't, had this incredible idea, but they're investing in you, right? At the end of the day, they're investing in you. And to have the confidence to say that is like, this person's got it. Like, let's just go. That's incredible. And so how much have you raised? I guess it's just still the seed round.
Yes. So we closed our seed round, like I said, and Stage.O is our institutional seed investors, and they've been an incredible partnership for us. We closed our seed round in early September. So again, speed is our story. I should rephrase. We closed, meaning we had known what capital we were taking in at the end of June. And as you all know, it takes time to bring in checks and to work through all the, the safes and all of that stuff, especially because we had turned into a company faster than we knew we would.
Right.
And we'd begun, and I had to quit my job, and there was a lot of stuff going on in there. And so Carrie and I began working on the company in July of last year, so less than 6 months ago, and closed the actual money and financing in early September. We had our waitlist launched in October. We launched our full product in December. So our full product was out basically the 1st of December around Small Business Saturday, which hopefully everybody that's listening will go and try because it's pretty incredible for a first product. And I've been shopping entirely differently since then. So we closed that round, and then we actually met our milestones. We had a milestone set with our investors. We met our milestone, what is now 5 to 6 months ahead of what we were supposed to, based on user acquisition and number of users. So we're just flying, and
you are off to the races. I love it. What's the business model exactly? Like, how are you going to make money?
It's affiliate commission. So It's actually pretty easy. I'll explain it just in layman's terms in case some of those listeners are your daughter or people who aren't in the industry, or anybody trying to figure out what we do. But essentially, we are trying to create visibility for small business and their products, and be able to have those products easily accessible. All those businesses have their own e-commerce stores. Those e-commerce stores express their own individuality, their own independence. We have like sort of washed out all of our e-commerce stores, remove the humans from them. So we're trying to create this sort of funnel everybody over there. And so what GoodBuy is essentially just, it's a search engine of the largest search engine ever of small businesses in one place and all their products. So that's 183,000 small businesses that we have, 19 million products. There are no other search engines that exist that are this broad that allow you to see them as quickly as your product need. So the way that you would go to Amazon and search, a bud vase, you'll just type it into Amazon and it pops up for us. And so when it pops up, so when our tool does pop up, or when you're visiting our future, in a couple months, we'll have a mobile version searchable of our tool where you can kind of toggle your values. When a product pops up, you're actually seeing the product listing inside of our tool, but from that individual store. So as you're scrolling through, instead of on Amazon, when you see something, they're forced to conform to Amazon standards. And then they're forced to give a lot of their revenue up to Amazon, to be a part of Amazon's network. They get the visibility, but they're getting a lot of their revenue taken out, and it all looks the same to you.
They also can get really screwed. I have some friends who sell as on Amazon, and if they get like one bad review for one bad thing,
exactly,
Amazon can like kick them off. It's a terrible partnership.
Awful.
It's not in favor of the small business. Yeah, at all.
It's not in favor of the small business. Even when they say they have small businesses, they're not supporting them. And I think that's the trickiest part, is we're not here to shame anybody for using Amazon. Again, I still use it sometimes, but there's so many other ways we can make it easier to shop better, shop cooler, shop more diverse, support the people you want. And so just to get back, I'm tangenting, but just to get back to when that product list comes and you're scrolling through these, oh, that's a cool chunky boot I'd rather have, or a cool bud vase. When you click on that store, that product, it just goes right to that store. So we're kind of a broker between your search results, because you would never have seen these businesses before installing GoodBuy or before visiting GoodBuy. You never would have. They would have been on page 25 of your search results. You would have seen Crate and Barrel bud vase instead of seeing Slowdown Studio bud vase. And so the search tool pops it up for you. You click over and we go right to the store. And then if you buy it on the store now has a sale they would never have had before, because that person would have bought from Crate and Barrel, and we now have a commission. And that's how our business survives. Amazing. So it's an affiliate commission that pass through. The way I like to explain it to is just like, we're like a broker, like the friend you'd go to, a trusted friend who would say like, where do I go to like support a Black-owned business that sells like, vases?
Yeah.
We do the search quickly and use technology to do that.
So you've obviously got this badass CTO, you've got the two of you. And to me, the biggest gap or the biggest challenge, if I was trying to solve this problem, would be like, okay, how do you get customers to even know about? Because you get hit by so many different businesses. They all kind of blend together. How do I find out about GoodBuy if I'm a consumer? And then how do I find out about GoodBuy if I'm a small business? Do you have like a sales team, like cold calling all these small businesses? Like how does that happen?
So this is, it's the most loaded question for our business. So
it seems really hard to crack. Like what a hard problem to solve.
So we have a steady, exciting growth in user acquisition. We are, I think the best way to explain this, because it's two parts. We're a two-sided marketplace, right? We've got the retailer part, which is acquiring, building relationships, building rapport with the diverse owner identities, with the diverse businesses, the diverse categories that we offer, and building that up, right? So we've got that side of the business, which is this whole beast in itself. We've got the other side, which is our focus right now. And the focus is on customer acquisition and building up our users so that we can say to them, this tool exists. It's important in your new shopping behaviors. It's worth downloading. It's worth engaging, and that is where our focus is. So to answer your question, in the short term, our focus is on customer acquisition from a business model standpoint, and from ensuring that the dollars in investment for our business go further. We are focused on our hires being inside of brand building and marketing, inside of customer acquisition, inside of storytelling and building trust with customers, because we're building that quickly and rapidly. And it's an easier story to tell, as we're talking to future investors, as we're, talking to retailers down the road. Our customer acquisition costs for retailers get to be a lot lower once we say we've got 10,000 eyeballs, who would see your store. It seems like a
really big challenge, though. And I'm not to put you on the spot, but I'm in my mind going, okay, if I didn't know you and I wasn't your friend and, didn't know Mike and I was just somehow stumbled upon GoodBuy, I was like, oh, this looks cool. This aligns with my values. I'll download it. And I couldn't quickly get what I wanted, I might lose interest. And so if it's a chicken and egg thing, because you have to have the retailers so that the supply is there of the things
So
right?
to clarify, the retailer side is basically, I guess the best way I could put it is like, we're serving the community we're building, but the active pursuit of retailers is on hold because we have so many retailers.
Okay,
I can't really
got
explain how. It is part of our special sauce, but we used our
Oh.
creativity and our ingenuity to access these 183,000 businesses, to vet
That's
them
incredible.
along our standards, to pull in 19 million products. Like, we have a huge search engine.
Like already existing. That's incredible.
Exactly. And that is the special sauce of what we've built. And what's so cool about it is that we're just passing through right now people to those businesses to build up our identity as GoodBuy. And so more as days go on, we're in a bit of the long game, with some, and just trying to introduce our brand. I think we're very heavily focused when it comes to the customer side. So we do not need to focus. We're serving the customers we have. When people decide to download GoodBuy or install it or add it to their Chrome browser or visit our search engine that will be available in a couple weeks, the response is shocking. They're like, holy crap, this thing actually works. Like, I know you said it was going to pop up on top of Amazon and Target and Walmart and Macy's and give me better products, but like seeing it in action, because there's no comps. Nobody's built this before. It is a moment, and that word of mouth has been great for us.
Yeah.
I will say also what we've noticed is that once we actually, so it takes a lot to get someone past like you're saying, where they think it's just another marketplace, right? Because there's no comps. They're like, oh, do I need to? I'll follow them, but I'm not going to do it. So it takes a lot to get someone into our world. But once they use it,
you never lose them.
We never lose them. We've been seeing the just under 1,000 active users we have right now, which, by the way, we've been live for like 4.5 weeks. So we're really proud of those 1,000 users who are using the tool. Our numbers are growing steadily. Like, we're having an insane pace, and it's starting to kind of, even post gifting season, continue on.
Yeah.
But the people who are using the tool are engaging with it actively. They're engaging with the purchasing. We're seeing a really high purchase rate, a click-through rate of 11%. So when the tool's popping up, most 11% of the time, our aspiration was 2%. So 11% of the time, having people click through to purchase something is wild.
That's amazing
for us.
That's
so
incredible.
Again, it's the adoption. And so what I said to you earlier before we even started, chatting, before we started recording, was the important aspect for our business is figuring out now how to take this 19 million product strong, incredible small businesses and introduce them to the world. So how do we introduce them to the world? We deploy it in different ways. We deploy it via browser extension, on desktop and eventually on mobile, which will come in a couple months. We deploy it via a mobile search and desktop search, and we'll continue to do that. Over time.
That's incredible. You started to touch on recruiting a little bit, and I can tell you, because I've been doing this for a gajillion years, recruiting, that I don't know if it's just more than ever, I guess, during the pandemic, people's values shifted around how they go about looking for jobs and what matters. And a big value, obviously, is joining a company where their values align. And I would imagine that that's going to be incredibly easy for you to draw in talent as people think about like actually being an mission-driven company and changing the world. For so many people, this is going to resonate. What do you lead with when you're recruiting, and what is your, recruiting strategy?
There isn't much of a recruiting strategy right now. And that's just in like all transparency. I've done a lot of hiring in my life and found it a lot harder than it has been since starting GoodBuy. And I think we've had a lot of organic hires, and I'm really appreciative of that. And I'm filled with gratitude for the amount of incredible humans we've discovered here. Yeah. So we have 7 employees right now, and I genuinely love them all. They'll laugh listening to this, but we are actively building a culture of like vulnerability and growth. And not just about like what we're trying to do to help the world, but day to day, just like I like dancing in the office and laughing, and I want, I want that for our staff. Carrie wants that for our staff. The unlimited holidays, the stuff that we're offering is just a given. Being two moms, like we get it. Our entire staff, like half of us are moms, and we've been out half the time. Like half the time we've been working on this, or we're home with our kids, they're in the background. I know everybody's used to that now, but there's a difference in like
the
true
empathy,
understanding and empathy. And so I will just say that recruitment strategy has not been sound because it's been so organic. People hear about what we're doing. We hired our social impact strategist and like retailer community manager, Sienna, who's this wonderful human, because we had heard via somebody else that she was in existence and lived in our city. And we couldn't believe it. We had a conversation with her. We just made a role for her. And now she's working to like help us identify like diverse owner identities and how to speak to different identities. And we're actually creating a small business advisory board, which we have about half full right now. And it's just full of unique owner identities, unique small businesses, both brick and mortar and online. And we're really excited to get that together. So the recruiting has not been that thoughtful. It's been thoughtful in the sense of what spots we need to fill. We have an incredible designer. We have diverse identities already built into the 7 humans.
That's amazing.
That are
you guys in
us.
person, or are you working remote or a combo?
We're combo right now. Well, right now, as we do this interview, we're in the middle of what Omicron surge. So right now, Carrie and I are in the office in N95s, yet still hugging. So it's a little counterintuitive,
right?
But we are in the office like that, and most people are working from home because we're trying to be cautious. But people don't love working from home because we love the energy we have.
Of course.
So, but previous to Omicron, we were in the office and testing and boosted and all that kind of stuff. And Terry, who manages our operations, he is out of Boston, though we want to move him down here.
Well, this is why I wanted to ask, because there may be people listening who would want to work with you. So are you open to hiring people who are in other communities? And are you like kind of geographically agnostic, or do you want them in Boise?
Depends on the role. It depends on the role, honestly. And I can go further, but I'd say yes, especially we have a role that we posted today, actually, for a performance marketer. It's a director of performance marketing role. And we'd love that to be local, but that does not have to be local. We're looking for kind of a bit of a unicorn and someone who's really excited about our business. So we're very open to that being pretty much anywhere. Or someone who's like interested in maybe like Boise's been on their list. That's kind of what's with Terry. He kind of looks at Boise. He's like, well, I don't like Boston winters anymore. Maybe I'll move down to Boise. So
that's so funny. I just hung up before we got on with somebody in Boston, and they're like, it's -20 today. I'm like, that sounds horrible. A lot of people are talking about the 3 Bs out of Seattle. People going to Boise, Bozeman, and Bend, Oregon is like the 3 places. Boise's awesome. And we've got somebody on our team from Boise who I love. And I'm just really psyched about what you guys are building.
Thank you.
I'm curious what your biggest challenge is right now. Like, what are you losing sleep over besides, being a mom?
Yeah. Oh my God. Exactly.
That's losing
like the
sleep.
founder
a different
insomnia
type of,
mixed with the, no NyQuil can help that. It's back to what you already segued for us is, I'm not losing sleep over it, but I'm constantly driven by unique ways in which we can acquire customers and storytell around our business that doesn't have a comp. Because like you said, there's so many people shouting at them on Instagram, buy this, buy that, visit this small business, visit that. And there's this level of like, that's all I know. And so to change that behavior, to understand that like, oh, if you install this thing will change the behavior for you. Or you can visit that awareness strategy, the customer, everything that leads to customer acquisition, meaning, or user acquisition, anybody who's engaging with our search engine. That's what is like my creativity gets applied to every day, and I'm constantly sussing out other founders and asking other humans or other people that are engaging with our brand or seeing what we're posting and saying, what can we be doing to be more clear? And share what is a complicated story. Like we're not necessarily a marketplace where, we will eventually be that, and we will eventually have that search functionality, but how do you shop very efficiently and quickly in alignment with your own values while still really being focused on getting the thing you need? And that's, I think, what, in the storytelling piece that's been really interesting for us is everybody during the pandemic and during all these social justice movements, which have been incredible for humankind, have pushed people to almost silo communities where it's like, you've got a Black-owned marketplace over here, which is wonderful. And you've got a sustainable marketplace over here, which is wonderful. And you've got all these places, but oftentimes they have like a very small curated group of 25 stores or even 1,000 stores. And that's great, but like, I need a wallet for my father-in-law and I want to support my values, but I still need the wallet. And so what we're trying to solve is like kind of a change in the way people see that, is that you can still have your product needs, but in the moment that need gets delivered into a search bar, you're delivered quick, efficient search results that feel aligned with your values, whatever those might be. And if you're an activist around sustainability, then you'll sort those results that way. But if you're like me and those values intersect, and you want to, like, whenever possible, just support like a women-owned, a family-owned, a small business, an AAPI-owned business, like, I don't care as long as it's the shoe I want for my kid, then this is the tool that serves you. And it's hard for people to grasp that yet. And I know over time it's going to blow their minds, but that's
it already is blowing my mind. The only thing that I have that literally just came into my brain was price. Like, will I get the same price? Because sometimes you have to, if I have a girlfriend who owns a clothing store here and I shop there all the time, not only because she has incredible taste and like literally half my wardrobe's from her, but because I want to support my friend in a small, women-owned business.
Of course.
But then I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that when Nordstrom's taking a markdown on, the Veronica Beard, that she is also.
Oh my God, I love Veronica Beard.
Or, as a random example. Random example. But so sometimes small businesses can't afford to give the same price, pass through the same price.
So our tool prioritizes your results based on a couple different search criteria. So the search results automatically, which are getting more and more sophisticated, sort based on our audience type. So I'm not going to go into all the technical details, but we begun GoodBuy price matching on Walmart.
Oh my gosh, that's
when
amazing.
We started building our tool, we wanted to ensure that when you search something like a bud vase on Walmart, that there were options inside of our tool. Now, I can't promise that every search is going to have the exact same price point, but I will tell you, if you look at our reviews, we just had a recent review that was like someone who bought an armoire on our tool who said they forgot they even installed GoodBuy. They went to Amazon, they were going through a bunch of armoires or Wayfair, I can't remember where it was. And our tool popped up. And they said, I found 10 small businesses that had a better looking armoire for cheaper on the tool than the one they were looking at with the amount of drawer needs they had. So the use case was like tenfold. Now they're sold forever. And that was something amazing. Like what the review said. So I will say that sometimes though, we just did a search result for puffer jackets. We talked about it earlier on, but you go and look at that Amazon jacket that everyone has. I honestly have it. Because of the way we've all learned to shop, because of big box showing up in your first, 3 pages of search results, we all look the same. And a lot of people don't like that. Like there's a lot of like us all in the same sweatsuit from Target and us all in the same jacket from Amazon and us all in the same, those Yeezy looking like weird slipper things that everybody wore in the summer. You know what I'm talking about, because we all wear the same thing. And what the tool does that's so cool is that it just makes you discover, and I go back to the puffer jacket, if you type in puffer jacket into our new search bar in our widget, or just search it anywhere and watch our widget pop up, the first 10 results are like a faux leather puffer, a rad, like from Girlfriend Collective, there's this really rad like tan puffer. And some of those, to your point, align with the purchase price that you're looking at immediately. Some of them will be like, you're looking at the exact price, and some of them won't. You'll find gorgeous, if you're a high-end shopper, you can find, I found a puffer in our tool that was probably at the like 750 price point mark, which isn't normally what shows up, but you can find these high-end small businesses that are curating their own brands. They're a brand that's doing beautiful stuff, and you're going to look unique in it. And I think that's what's interesting. So back to the point of sort by price, our tool does stuff automatically for you, but there's an update coming in a couple of weeks that will also be in mobile search where you can sort by. So it'll do our natural search,
almost
our native search results.
By that being that might not even be a value. Not that people want to waste money, but like for me, it might be more important to support a small women-owned business. And I don't care if I'm saving the $10.
Exactly. And the other thing is, so some people like our Gen Z staffers are definitely like sort by price, right? And so that will help them. And then there's other moments in which you're buying a t-shirt to wear at a Pride March. And you're like, duh, I obviously want to support a LGBTQIA owned business. Why wouldn't I? You can go into search and you can hit LGBTQ and it will resort those to make sure that at least if you're going to buy the red t-shirt, it's from a business you want to support.
Yeah.
So it's really, the search engine's still learning. We're a new search engine, but it's delivering great results.
You are just so off to the races. I love it. I'm literally the minute I get off, it's done and done. I'm all over it. It's really exciting.
Keep buying on it.
We have a lot of repeat users. I'm in. So personally, I'm guessing you have zero time to continue to, pursue your own, like, do you still dance? Like, how do you just keep your creative juices flowing outside of stuff like in the business and with the kids?
I was actually, it's a very timely question that you asked, Shauna.
I
was writing a post. It's timely because I was writing a vulnerable post to post on LinkedIn, because I'm not a great upkeeper of I'm a founder and I'm sharing on LinkedIn, and I know I need to do more of that.
It's hard to do. You're so good as the face, like you should be, because you're so articulate. You're so good on your feet. You're so polished. It's hard to do, but
it's so hard.
You're an influencer. You got to double down on that.
Oh, I appreciate that. I try. It's just I find it very awkward, but
it is awkward. I get it.
I will over time figure out how to do it via other founders. But I share because I was preparing this vulnerable post about my desire to build community, my desire to be active and network and to be creative and to keep exploring things outside of my business that inspire my business. But I'm tired.
You have no time.
I'm tired. I've got 2 tiny kids and, my energy at work is very focused and very efficient, and I'm here for my team, but I do feel a little drained, and I'm looking forward to, as my kids get a little older and my time becomes a little bit less, run around and clean the house and put the light bulb in that we need to when we do, to actually be able to focus on myself. Like, I miss dancing. When you say it, it makes me want to cry because I want to teach a class.
I get it. But there's not to be like old lady, I'm older than you, but like the advice part is like, there are seasons, and you will look back and be like, that was the season of like, holy shit, I can't believe I did that. You'll look back and be like, that wasn't even me. Like, how did that happen? I had these 2 little kids. I started a business in a pandemic with somebody that I kind of just was getting to know. Like, the whole thing is incredible, but this is just that season.
It's so funny.
And you have your whole life for dancing and for all these other things.
I really appreciate hearing that. And it's something I tell myself all the time. I came across this article once, and I wish I could quote where it was from, but it's really stuck with me that, it was like, so the headline was something like, stop focusing on work-life balance and focus on work-life fulfillment. And what they meant about that was that you could be fulfilled, that when you think about balance, you think about a weight that has to be even all the time. And so in your mind, especially as a woman, as a mom, as a founder, as all these things, you're constantly trying to keep them in balance versus thinking about it as like, I can be really fulfilled by my work in this one moment. And my kids can be taking, sitting a little by the wayside right now. I'm obviously still there for them, but there's stuff I'm focusing on at work. But then know that that might shift in a moment. And whether it's for a week or for an hour or for days, that fulfillment can be different things in different moments and not have to be in balance.
Yes.
It's changed me reading that article, because I was like,
or not to look at that balance, that scaled balance as time balance, because it's about impact balance. Like, if this is a good use of your time, because you're hopefully hitting a lot of people listening, then this is a good hour spent. And if it was like, otherwise, I'm going to just throw my kid in the back of this car to run errands, to be like, well, I was a good mom because I was like with my kid, but I wasn't present, or moms who are like, well, I need to volunteer all the time, but the kids don't even know that you're volunteering. Like, being with the kid. Mm-hmm. I could talk about this subject forever. And maybe it's because of my own mommy guilt as a full-time working mom, but
I know that when the Jewish guilt meets the mommy guilt, it's like explosion.
I know. So what's your ultimate fuel? What fuels you as we come to a close of this awesome conversation?
What fuels me is conversations with other people, other women, other people. I love this. Listening, hearing, talking with other people, learning about new things is a huge fuel for me. Hosting parties, having friends over, learning about people. That's hard with children. And so I miss that part of life. You know, I was always the like, let's be creative and come up with a theme thing we're going to do today. Just sort of building.
Send me your ideas. I'm old and I can do it. My kids are self-reliant now. I'll take all your ideas. I love it.
Okay, so I'll do that. So that fuels me. Is like I'm fueled by being around people. My husband would joke, he's going to listen to this and be like, I don't like being alone. It's a thing.
We're like kindred spirits. I feel like I'm interviewing me right now, because if my husband was listening, he'd be like, wait, is that you? That's 100% me. Yeah, I love to be around people. We're extroverts. We get energy.
And then the other thing, which I think you're going to also align with, which what fuels me, and this is going to be the most shallow thing ever to say, but it's what ultimately fueled me to start this business, is I love shopping. Oh, yeah. I love fashion.
I love that you know that I love that.
Yeah, I just know. I have a feeling.
You know, you're shopper people.
Yeah, but I just love shopping and going, like, honestly, traveling and going into small businesses and chatting with owners and buying something cool and making them feel good that I think about later, whether it's a piece of art or a new jacket. Yes. I love the memories that are in the things we buy. And that sounds a little materialistic and not sustainable, but I just love shopping. And so
I get that little jolt. I'm getting it right now. You're making me want to shop. I'm going to download my GoodBuy. I'm all over it. And thank you so much. It's so much fun.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Shauna. This was a great combo.